Mm. Yeah, bro.
Right. Okay. So let's get started over here. In our previous session regarding the Playwright, we had discussed like API testing, where we have seen like how do we generate um, token, how do we generate, how do we basically get the responses, how do we generate the token from the responses, and so on. Right. Um, that is like a basic of the API that we have gone through over here to see like how do we call. We have gone through like manually first, and then we have also gone through with to check like how do we work with in terms of test automation by using an API testing, by using any of the API that we have to call. So every API we have to call using the request itself. Request is a again function which will help us in making an API call in terms of Playwright. Okay, I hope like you people might have gone through with the different things, different recordings that I had shared you earlier. Others, whoever is new over here, will just go through with some like as part of the demo session, we'll go through with some of the things, and then we'll be starting our session from in the next couple of days for the new batch. Okay, so today we'll discuss regarding a page object model framework that we generate in terms of using again the Playwright. Okay, so first thing that we have to understand whenever we go for any kind of development of framework, first thing that we have to understand is what all the things that we require to generate a framework. Now, in terms of generation of a framework, what all the things that we require is we need to have first the understanding of the script that we have written. By now, we have understanding of the script, and also like for the new people as well, we'll be getting understanding. That is just again a prerequisite. Second thing that you need to the complete understanding of how do we structure the framework. When we say like how do we structure the framework, that means there'll be different set of things that we have to follow to make a framework. When you are so a simple example, a layman example is when you try to build a home, right? When you try to build a home, that is also a framework, right? So how do we set up? What kind of structure that we have to follow? What kind of steps that we have to follow is known as a framework. You cannot directly make a roof, right? You have to start from the scratch. You have to start from by giving some kind of pillars and then walls, and then you have to give a roof inside the for the room, right? In the same way, every framework will follow some kind of structure. Every framework will have certain structure that it has defined. Okay. Now, when we talk about a page object model, it has also their own structure. It has defined like why do we use the page object model, what is advantage, disadvantage, and so on. So when we talk about a page object model over here, now what is the definition of the page object model? So page object model is basically a design pattern used in software testing. What happened in terms of a page object model? The name itself says that page object model is that every web page will be represented as an object. Every web page will be represented as an object. Now, what is object? Object can be anything which is visible to us. In terms of a coding language, whenever we create a page, whenever we create a class, to access the methods and property of that class, we'll be creating an object. That is what known as object in terms of page object model. Okay, so now the understanding that we need to have is like what is page object model over here. So page object model is a design pattern which help us in designing the framework. How do we design the framework? How do we structurize the framework? Right. So page object model is a design pattern used in software testing to represent a web page as an object. So every web page, whenever you try to access any of the applications or whenever you try to work with any of the application, every application will have a certain number of pages. When we select certain number of pages, there can be a registration page, there can be login page, there can be dashboard page, there can be some product page. Let's say if you're working with e-commerce website, there can be card page, there can be payment page, there can be checkout page, and there will be a lot of things in that way, right? So every page will be represented as an object in terms of page object model. It is It is a way to organize and manage the interactions with a web page by creating classes. That is what I was talking about. Like for each and every page that we have discussed, like registration page, login page, home page, and so on. So for each and every classes, for each and every pages, we'll be creating one particular class. Okay. If I show you in terms of a diagrammatically that we have over here. So if you see in terms of a diagrammatically that we have over here. So these are pages. There can be a different page for one of application. There can be a login page, home page, registration page, search page, add to cart page, payment page, and so on. And then we have to basically in terms of a page object model, there will be majorly two layers. One is page layer, which is this one, the left side one that you see, login page, home page, registration page. And then there will be a test layer. Test layer means purely we'll be writing the test cases over there. Completely the test cases will be writing inside the test layer. And test layer can be a login page test, home page test, registration page test, and so on. Now, in that case, what will happen is you see this login page test, right? So this login page test will consist of only the test cases related to login page. This home page test will consist of only the test cases related to home page. Inside the home page test, we'll not be having any login page test. We'll not be having any, let's say, payment page test and so on. So every pages will represent two things over here. One, we'll be creating a class where we can store locators. Locators means identifying the elements on the web page, and then methods. Methods means actions that we have to perform. When we talk about an actions means there can be clicking on an element, there can be getting the text from an element, there can be typing inside any of the input field and so on. Okay, but everything will be represented in a page by page manner. I'll again come back to this page. So that is what it is trying to say, that it is a way to organize and manage the interactions with a web page by creating classes that encapsulates the properties and behavior of the page. Now, properties behavior, that is what I was talking. What is properties? The variable that will be defining. And what should be the variable over here? The variable should be something like allocators to identify the element on the web page. What should be the properties? Again, the locators. And what should be the behavior? Behavior will be the method. What kind of interaction that will be doing on the web page? That will be a behavior. Okay. Now, as I was talking about, each page object class typically contains methods for interacting with elements on the page. What can be the interaction? There can be like clicking on an element, typing inside it, an input field, getting the text value from an element, and so on. Can be clicking buttons, entering text, and many different operations can be there. So that is what basically representation of a page object known as. Every pages will consist of like inside the application, whatever the application that you go through in terms of your test automation, one page will be represent as a single object. One page will represent as a single object, and inside one page there will be two layers. One will be page layer that I'll be talking about in the next couple of minutes, and second will be a test layer. Why do we design the page object model? That also I'll explain you in the next couple of minutes. Now, if you see, this approach promotes reusability and reduce code duplication. So why do we generally, do the people, why do the organization are going through with page object model framework? There are certain benefits of that. One is in terms of reusability, that will be very easy. What is meant by reusability? Reusability means you can write once and reuse at multiple places. You can write once and use that particular things at multiple places. Okay, so what we can do is let's say we have a login page test, right? So we have to log in into the application. In that case, what we'll be doing is we'll be writing the login page related test cases inside the login page over here. Login page related test case inside the login page. And that particular method we can utilize inside all the other pages. Login page will be utilized inside many. Let's say you have 500 test case, then you have to log in 500 times, right? And it is not possible that we have to write every time the complete set of login steps that launch the URL, fill the username, fill the password, and click on login button. It is not possible, right? So if you write 500 times, that means there will be a duplication. And that is what is known as reduces code duplication. That means we can write a single method, and that method we can utilize wherever is needed inside our framework, is known as a code reduces the code duplication and also the reusability. Now, in terms of page object model, one of again advantage that we have over here is maintenance will be very easy. Now, what is meant by maintenance will be very easy. So let's say example, let me see if I have already developed something over here. Yes. So if you see over here in terms of pages that we have defined, which is a login page over here, right? So this is a login page test. Do not worry, what I have written, we'll go through in detail in our session as well. But if you see this particular things that we have written, what did we do over here is we have written certain things inside this login page. What are those certain things? And those are basically as the same page object can be used across multiple test cases. Additionally, it allows for easier updates to the test, add changes to the page structure. That is what I'm trying to say. The maintenance will be very easy because what we are trying to write inside the page is this is the locator that we are trying to write. Now, what is locator? Locator is something that will be basically identification of an element on the web page. Just a minute. Thanks. Okay. I'm so sorry. I got a call that few people have joined on different meeting links, I believe. Okay. So let's again come back to. So what we are trying to write over here is we are trying to write certain things. What we are trying to write locators first over here. Locators, which will identify the element on the web page. And what are these locators? If you see these locators, what are these locators over here? So these locators are something which will identify the element on the web page only for the login page related things. You will not find any other things, any other locators over here other than login page locators. Okay, so what is happening in this case is only the locators that we write over here is for login page. Now, in this case, let's say if there are certain changes have been introduced in next, let's say coming months or in few months, right? If there are any certain changes have been made or have been introduced inside the application. Now, what we have to do, let's say if our test case have started failing, let's say if our test case have started failing, now what we have to do over here is we simply have to come to the login page. We do not have to check inside the entire framework that where our test case is failing, which particular locators are failing, and so on. We can directly come to the login page and see which locators are failing, and we can directly go and change it over here. Let's say if we have used this particular method or this particular locator at 100 places, example I'm talking about. Let's say if you have used at 100 places inside the 100 test cases, you do not have to go and check for each and every test case. You just come to one page, change the locator or change the method, whatever it is required us in terms of changing. Change those particular things and it will be automatically updated for all the other test cases, right? That is what known as maintenance will be much easier in terms of page object model. Okay, you directly have to come to that specific page which wherever the test cases are failing and update that, which will update all the test cases, whatever have been impacted with the changes. Okay, and inside this you'll see like the only methods that we have written, which is related to the login page test. Apart from that, you will not find any other things, right? That is what known as a page object model. That means one page will represent one object, and inside one page we'll be writing the locators and method only related to that particular page. That particular page means login page related locators and method inside the login page, home page related locators and method inside the home page, and so on. Okay. I hope you are able to see my screen. Can anyone please answer?
Yeah, we can see. Right.
Great. Great. Okay. Now, as it says that, as the changes to the page structure only requires update to the page object class. That is what I was trying to talk about. Whenever there are any kind of changes in terms of, let's say, test cases or in terms of locators or in terms of methods, or let's say element itself have been changed, you just have to go to that particular page and update whatever is required in terms of fixing the bugs rather than each individual test. This is the major benefit that we have in terms of, see, whenever you go for test automation, right? Whenever you go for test automation, generally we'll be developing a test case. Generally we'll be developing the framework once, but maintenance will be a lot over there. It's not something that we have just developed a framework and that's it. Maintenance going forward will be a huge task. So if I categorize like development and maintenance, that used to be like 40% development and 60% maintenance. Because once you develop, after that, you also have to maintain those test cases. And in terms of maintenance, page object model is much better than other framework that we have. Okay, now let's see how do we structurize the page object model over here. So if you see the diagram that we have over here, where we create a page layer. Page layer means pages like different classes will be creating, where each and every classes will consist of locators and methods specific to that particular class. And then we'll have a test layer. So test layer will be something where we'll be writing the test cases related to only that specific class. Login page test will consist of the test related to login page. Home page test will consist of a test case related to home page. Registration page will have registration pages and so on. Okay, so that's where we are now going ahead to check like how do we make the structure in terms of the page object model. So if you see over here a page layer that we have. So in terms of a page object model framework, when you start developing, there will be certain layer that we have to define. And what are those layer are? One is a page layer. One is a page layer. What page layer will do is it will create a package, or first we'll have to create a packages. We can say either a package or in terms of JavaScript and TypeScript, we say it as a folder. Okay, so we can create a folder over here, which you can give like, let's say, page object or pages or anything. Most of the organization provide it as pages. Okay, so let's see how do we create a folder over here. So this is a Visual Studio Code where we have different ways. One of them is if you just hover over on these options, it says that new file, new folder, and refresh Explorer, right? So you can simply go to new folder and create a pages as a folder over here. Okay, so this is a first step. What we have done is we are trying to now create a page layer, which will consist of locators and methods. We'll create a package or folder, and inside this pages we'll be writing locators and method related to a specific page. This is a folder. Now, if you have to create any of the pages, for example, login page, dashboard page, how do we create that? So again, you can simply go to this pages and then click on new file over here. Okay, like most of you might not be aware, like how do we create a file or do we create a folder over here inside the Visual Studio Code? That will go through in our session. There's again a demo for you people so that you might not be understanding, but we'll go through in detail again. So here we can simply say it as, let's say, login page dot ts. Okay, login page dot ts. Again, let's say if you have to create for dashboard page, we can simply create again, let's say dashboard page dot ts. Now what we have created, we are trying to create a class over here. And inside this login page class, we'll be creating certain things. And what are those things we'll be creating that we have mentioned over here? So example, we can create login page.js, dashboard page.js, card page.js, and JS or TS, whatever it requires, whatever the language that we are trying to use. If you are using TypeScript, then .ts. If you are using JavaScript, then .js, and so on. So this will represent a page class. This will represent a page layer. That means different pages, depending on the application that you are using, we can write it over there. Okay, I hope till now everything is clear over here. Whoever have joined the late, you can just listen it. We have discussed few of the things, but you can just try to listen it. Like how do we go through with it? How do we basically uh, structurize the framework? How do we explain this? What we have to follow and all. Okay, so this becomes a page layer. As I was trying to show you this example. So first will be a page layer and second will be a test layer. Apart from that, there are certain other layers as well. I'll talk about in next 5 minutes. So first main and major things that we have in terms of a page object model is a page which will represent an object and which will consist of locators and method, and a test page. Test page will only consist of the test cases related to that specific page. So if I show you over here, example, this one. So if you go for let's say we have a login page test over here. So if you see this login page test, right? So this is a test layer. This is a test layer. Now, in terms of structurizing of the test layer, if you see what we have said, in terms of a test layer, we have to write a pure test cases and assertions. Assertions means validations. And that test case or that test layer, we have to write inside the test folder. And this test folder will be automatically given us by the Playwright. So if you see, this test layer will be given us by Playwright at the time of installation of Playwright. Okay, so this is the test layer. Inside this, we'll be creating the test classes. Okay, so in the same way, you can see over here. So what we have written inside this, we have written a valid login scenario, an invalid login scenario. There can be many other test cases as well. Whatever the test cases related to page object that we have or pages we have over here, we can write it inside that particular test, that particular class, that particular test here. Okay. So that is basically known as a test layer, where we'll simply call the methods What is this valid login? Where did we create this method? So that method we have created inside a page layer over here inside the login page. If you see, we have created a valid login, we have created an invalid login, and these methods we are trying to call inside the test layer over here, inside the test layer. So if you see over here, we have simply called it. And then we are trying to write an assertion by using expect. So what is this assertion? Assertions is the validation, the verification that we are trying to do for the test cases. Okay. So in terms of a test layer, we'll simply be writing the pure test cases and the assertions. Assertions will be verifications related to the test cases, and that will go inside the test folder over here. Okay, and that can be a login page test dot. There are certain format in terms of whenever we work with Playwright, we have to give the file name in a certain format, which will end up with .spec.ts or JS. Okay, so that is where in terms of test cases, whatever the test pages we have written over here, will have as a file format as file name .spec.ts or JS. Okay, so that will be again a test layer that will be created. Apart from that also, there will be a certain layer. There will be a different kind of apart from that as well. Now, what can be those layers? Those layers are test data. So whenever we have to manage the test data, we also have to manage the test data, right? So we also have to create few test data for testing. So let's say if you are trying to do a data-driven testing, right? So we have to manage the data. We have to basically create a test data layer. Okay. So we also have to create a test data layer in terms of this one as well. You can see that we have to create a test data. So test data management, this one, test data. The test data management can be by using a JSON file, by using an Excel file, by using a JSON file, by using an Excel file, or we can also create a different classes or a constant class to store the data at inside a single class, and from there we can take the data. Okay. So that we can also create one layer which will basically be known as a test data, which I have already created over here earlier, where we had to use some test data inside the test cases. So this will be a test data layer where we can store all the data related to test case. It can be a JSON file, it can be a Excel file, or we can also create a utility classes where we can store all the constant data inside the classes. And then we can have one more layer where we can create a utility methods. Now, what is in by utility methods? So generally what we can do is we can define a utils package again. So whatever the layer that you see, this is known as package or folder. So you can simply create another folder which will be known as, let's say, utils. So inside this utils, we can create again a different classes if we require in terms of our test cases, where we can write a utility methods like getting the screenshot, some API related methods, scrolling down inside the page, read the data from the file, Excel file, and so on. Right? Those will be a general or a generic methods that we can write it inside our framework. And that will basically be a constant or a customized method as well, which can be utilized inside any other page layer that we have created. Okay, so that is basically related to utils, where you can define a custom layer, custom methods, custom functions, and so on. Now the other one that we'll be having is reports. So report, we also have to create certain reports. So if you have written complete test automation framework, or if you have developed complete test automation framework, but after the execution, if you are not trying to generate any report, there is no use of development of a framework, right? Because we also have to produce someone, or you also have to share the test result to someone to check like what kind of progress that we have made, right? So report is also one of a major part, major role that it plays in terms of any of the framework for the test automation. So for the report as well, there will be one specific folder that we can create. Once we go for LDO report, we'll see that there will be another folder will be created, which will have the name as LDO results. As you can see over here inside this, we have a folder known as LDO results. And in terms of HTML, there will be again another layer which will be known as Playwright result. So Playwright report. These will be the two folders that we'll be creating inside our framework. Playwright report will consist of the HTML report, and Allure results folder will consist of the Allure reports. We'll see, like, Allure reports used to be very beautiful. It looks beautiful in terms of the designing, in terms of look and feel, and it also gives the complete details of all the test case that we have run, along with the screenshot, video recordings, and many other things. Okay, and then if we also require, we can create a base page over here. What is the base page? Base page we can create with some, again, a generic functions where we can say, like, let's say driver initialization, or certain customized method we can write. Let's say whenever we have to click on an element, we generally use dot click method, right? Dot click in terms of a playwright, we have a click method to click on an element. So generally, we'll directly be writing locator dot click, right? So instead of that, we can create a wrapper methods over there. Let's say click on an element, and inside this click on an element, we'll be using the similar method that Playwright has given, right? So these kind of methods, if we require, generally in terms of a Playwright, we do not require these things. But if your organization is saying that, okay, create a wrapper method for all the generic method that Playwright has given, then we can also go for designing of the wrapper class over here, which can be click on element, get text from element, wait for element to be visible, and certain other things that can write in terms of the generic methods over here inside the base page. And what is the use of this? Base page will become your base class. Inside this, you can write all the customized method, custom method, and those methods you can extend inside other page classes, extend inside other page layers. Okay, now till by now you might be knowing what is page layer. Page layer will be a classes which will consist of locators and methods related to a specific page. Okay, only specific locators and method will be writing inside the page layer. So if you see you over here, inside this is a page folder. Inside this, for let's say login page, we have written the locators only related to login page, and then methods only related to login page. Inside the dashboard page, if you see, we have written we have basically written locators related to a dashboard page, methods related to a dashboard page. Inside other pages, inside the cart page, we have locators related to cart page, and so on. Like there, I have just written one single test cases. That is why you are able to see, like, there are only certain couple of locators and couple of methods over here. But in general, when we extend the framework, when you try to write the exhaustive list of test cases, the number of locators and methods will increase over there. Okay, so that is what we generally create. This is how we generally structurize our page object model framework. Okay, this is how we generally create our page object model framework, which will have a different kind of structure where we have a page layer, we have a test layer, we also have test data layer, we have a utility layer. Utility layer can be helpful sometimes. Report layer will always be there to generate the report. Base page is again not mandatory in terms of Playwright, but if your organization is requesting you to write a wrapper method on the top of whatever the method that Playwright has given, We can take the help of base pages as well. And apart from that, that will be basically the total structure of the page object model framework. Okay. And then we'll create a different pages, and inside the different pages, we'll be writing the we'll basically be writing the locators and methods related to a specific page. Okay. So I'll pause over here and see if you have any kind of questions uh, over here from anyone. Manshu, Vinita, do you have any questions over here for page object model?
Yeah. Page object model means just like a utils files, na?
Page object model means just like a util files, not like that, but it will have a different layers. Yes. So one like util for one particular page, like different pages.
Yeah.
So for right, you're right in one sense where you have to create a util for one particular page, like login page, registration page, home page, dashboard page, and other things.
Yeah. Understood.
Great. Any other question from anyone else over here? Okay, so that's generally how do we develop a page object model framework over here from scratch. And this will give us the complete details of how do we generally go. So this is just a theoretical part. Now, how do we implement the part for the page object model that I will go through in our other sessions. For the people who have joined newly over here, for you people, this page object model will come at the time of going through with Playwright. For the person who is existing over here, for them, I'll implement this in our next session, where we'll go through by creating different pages, different test layers, and so on. Okay, so that's I'll stop over here due to certain things. The session. Himanshu and Vinita, probably you can drop off. I'll share you the recorded session over here. And next things, which will be the implementation of page object model framework, I'll discuss it later tomorrow.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, Himanshu
Thanks.
and Vinita.
Thanks.
Right. Others, uh, please stay over here. Yes, if you have any sort of questions, please feel free to ask any kind of questions that you have in mind related to courses, related to any other things.
Yeah,
Praveen,
Praveen, I had a
you-
question. Yeah, you go
Yes,
ahead.
go ahead.
it's very curiosity. I'm asking a small question. So while executing through API, how can we fetch the database using a play script?
Okay, so that is again a complete different stories that is related to API testing. We have to connect with the database. So every technology that we use, either JavaScript, TypeScript, Java, any other things, will have a certain methods to connect with the database. Certain driver that we have to install to connect with the database, and after that we can write similar query. However, the query that we write in terms of SQL will be able to write in that way, and then we can fetch the data from there.
Is there any way for the Postman how integration is there for this?
Yes, we have, like, even using the Postman as well, you will be able to do.
Okay.
Like if you require certain codes that I can provide you as well, but I'll again see that.
Okay. Sure. Thanks, brother.
Great. Yes, Priya, go ahead.
Yeah, Praveen, I mean, in Playwright, do we have only this page object model? Whereas in Cypress, we use BDD and Selenium. We
No,
have many frameworks.
no, in terms of page object model, sorry, in terms of a Playwright, we not only have page object model, whatever the framework that you have used with any other tools and technology will be applicable over here as well. But majority of the organization are following page object model due to certain benefits. So when I say like due to certain benefits, that means if you use a BDD Cucumber framework, then most of the flavor of Playwright you will lose there. That means most of the benefits of Playwright will not be applicable in terms of BDD framework. Now you might be having a question why it is happening with this. Because Playwright is not only a tool, it is also a framework itself. BDD Cucumber is also a framework. So both two different framework you cannot integrate with one. See, if you have used BDD with Selenium, Selenium is just a tool. If you have used a BDD with Cypress, Cypress is just a tool. Cypress takes the help of Mocha to create a framework, right?
Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
same way, Playwright is itself a framework. Playwright is not only a tool, it is also a framework which we do not require any third-party help, third-party tool help to generate the framework or to write the test cases.
Understood. So, I mean, if I join this class from tomorrow, do we have introduction why playwright? And I mean, will you give those
I have
introduction or that will
I
we
have
start the?
right, so I have completed this in our first session. Today we are in
Oh,
the third demo session.
okay. Then will
Okay.
you provide those recordings to me if I
Right.
join this?
You can just share
Oh,
me. You can just share me your name and contact number. I'll provide you the recorded session.
oh, okay.
Okay. Everyone, whoever is interested in getting the recorded, I believe like Prashant was also trying to ask. So please share your contact number and name. I'll provide you the all the previous recorded session so that you can watch it through. And as we after the demo session, we used to take a break of a day because like from the yesterday itself, few of the people are requesting for the payment and all. They have started like paying the fees. So we usually take a break of a day and then we'll start from the next day onwards. We'll start the real sessions. So I'll request everyone to share your name and contact details. I'll share you the recorded sessions of all the three sessions, and then you can probably go through with that. And if it looks okay for you, you can go ahead and register for the courses over here.
Okay. Do you
Will that be
want
okay?
us to share in the chat or to
You can just
Microsoft
share in the
people?
chat itself.
Okay. And okay. I just want to know because I was not sure about this playwright introduction, so want to know from basics. Okay.
Definitely, definitely. I'll share you all the three recordings. You can just go ahead with that.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Prashant, you are trying to ask some questions, right? Okay, not okay. Go ahead, Satya, I believe.
Yeah, in page object model, you are using class and constructor. If I want to use functions, it is working, not working.
So functions we have created over here. So if you see in this case, these are functions. These are
Yeah,
methods.
in page, your
This is
page one.
pages, right?
Yeah, in the page you are using class and constructor. Yes, we are directly using factory function also. Is it possible?
Right, that is possible. So you can also create a factor function over there.
Like same benefits is there, or like reusability or not?
No. So reusability will be there, but there will be certain complexity because whenever you create a class, you can create an object, right? In terms
Yeah.
of a factory functions as well, you can basically you create an object over there to get the uh, basically to get the data. You can simply call those methods, but for that again, you have to import every classes over there, every um, pages, every files that will be created inside each another other things. So that is why to simplify this, we create a class, and inside the class we create functions and methods.
Thank you.
So, so I understood your question. Let's say if you are just trying to create a factor functions, probably how will you understand which classes for which methods or which certain factor functions that you have created, right? So again, for that as well, you have to create login page, dashboard page, home page, and so on. So, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's always better to create a class, write the locators, constructor locators, inside the constructor, all the locators, and then methods. and by creating an object, we can access those locators and methods. There are different benefits of all the methods. So what is factory functions? So functions which will return an object, right,
Yes.
is known as a factory functions. Right.
Yeah.
So every concept that we learn or every concept that we go through will have a certain advantage and disadvantages. So even factory functions is something that you can create, but every time that will return one single object, right? Let's say
Yeah.
login page
Yeah.
related, you can create a fill username, fill password, login. But again, you have to create another factory functions. So number of objects will be created at that point of time. So to minimize those kind of things, we generally go for creation of an object, creation of a class. Okay.
Thank you.
I
Like I
hope
have a
this
doubt.
answers your
Like
question.
I have a doubt. Like we are using factory functions. That is the reason I'm asking. Thank you.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So I hope it answered your question.
Thank you so much.
Great. Okay. Any other question over here?
Praveen, I have one more question, Praveen.
Yes.
So how could we verify the RTM is applicable for RTM is applicable for in this?
RTM.
Yeah.
RTM, you mean requirement traceability metrics?
Yes. So
That
how
is for the
can we
manual
verify
testing.
this
That will
automation related the test cases? How can we verify the based upon the LO reports on the right?
correct. So that is depending on the report, and we'll be also writing the assertions. So assertions will be writing, assertions means verification. So we'll be writing a verification inside the test case itself for the test step as well as for the test cases. So that will confirm whether our test case have been passed or failed.
Okay.
And we can also generate the report to check how many test cases have been passed, failed, and so on. Okay.
Got it. I got it.
Great, thanks. Please try to share your contact number, which can be a WhatsApp number, so that I can directly forward you the recorded session. It will be easy instead of sharing the email address. I can simply forward you the recorded sessions. Okay. So any other question from anyone else? Okay. So if no questions, then I believe that you should have shared, or everyone should have shared your name and contact details so that I'll reach out to you. I'll share you the recorded sessions over here. If you are from any consultancy, you can share them as well, your contact number, and you can ask them to get back to me so that I can share the recorded session to them as well. If you directly want to share the contact details over here, you can also share. I can directly forward the recorded session. Yes, Kevin.
So I want to know that like why we are using constructor and what's the purpose of using constructor in class.
Okay, so constructor is a special type of functions which will help us in initializing the value of the variable, which will generally help us in initializing the value of the variable at the time of creation of an object. Okay, at the time of creation of an object, I'll basically explain you in detail like what is generally a constructor, but constructor is special type of function which help us in initializing the value of the variable. What can be the value of the variable? This is a variable and this is the value of this particular variable. And that will be initialized at the time of creation of an object. This will be another level where we'll discuss like 10 to 15 minutes, like why do we use constructor at the time of going through with the page object model. But in general, in a high level, this constructor is a special type of function which help us in initializing the value of a variable. If we do not create a constructor, whatever the locators that we'll be writing will not get automatically initialized, and then calling those methods and locator might fail. And that is why we create a constructor over there. Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
great. Okay, so that's it then. Thanks a lot everyone for joining, and we'll have a break for one day, which will be a tomorrow. Will be a break to get the to enroll the students, and from um, next next session onwards, we'll start with our real time, um, which will be a real courses. Like the regular courses will start from probably Friday. Okay. Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining, and then we'll continue in the next session.